Hello, hello. You guys, we are in for such a treat today. We have a return superstar, our good friend and human design expert, coach, and overall sparkly human being, Kelsey Abbott. Kelsey is an intuitive human design reader, a certified personal coach, investigator of joy, and the host of the Find Your Awesome podcast. She helps spiritual adventurers remember who they are and why they're here so they can up level with ease, which we love. She believes that the universe wants us to be sparkly AF and that joy is our natural state. When Kelsey isn't playing in her business, she's bringing curiosity, play, and joy to triathlons, a sport she races as an elite amateur. Welcome back, friend.
Thanks, friend. It's so good to be here.
Yes, it's been really great. If you haven't heard the other episode we had with Kelsey, I highly recommend you go back. I think it's episode 84-ish, where we dive into human design and all those good things. And since that conversation, we've been able to collaborate a little bit offline or behind the scenes. And the more I learn about you and interact with you, the more you just have to share. And I want to bring it to the podcast listeners and community here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just love being in your energy, Hannah. It's like, I can't believe it's been, I don't know, like a month since I hung out with you last. And I'm like, yes, more of this, please.
Yeah, time to fill up our little sunshine cups, maybe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would love to talk a little bit about, I don't know if it's behind the scenes or behind the curtain, if you will, but a question we've gotten a lot is, what does it really look like? We hear these coaches, they have these things, they do these talks, they have these podcasts, but how does that actually work day to day when it comes to your business design? And also, icing on the cake with this question is that you have taken your business model away from social media, which I think is another just like mind-blowing paradigm for online coaches to think about. So I guess my first question is, how is your business designed? So what are some of the offerings you have? How do you work? How do you always have energy to be training for races and saying yes to things? Break down kind of how you've formatted your coaching offerings, if you will.
Okay, so that's such a good question. Where do I want to start? My offerings, I offer human design readings, one-on-one human design readings, and partner human design readings, and then coaching relationships, which I always make as a choose your own adventure situation because every person is different. So we might include some like energy assessments in there, coaching around limiting beliefs and inner critics and all of that. I call it light leader amplification. So it's basically whatever you need to amplify your light.
Yeah. And this is all one-on-one kind of session based, or do you have packages?
No, I got rid of packages. I had packages at one point. Now it's one-on-one session based. And then with the light leader amplification, we come up with something that works for both of us. I have gotten to a place this year where I am so excited about like the people that are coming to me, the people I get to work with. I am so excited about doing the work with them. And then it's like, and then they're paying me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, so my business is like 7 years old, something like that. I'm not so good with time, but there was a point where I'd be like, well, I need to get like the right amount of money in exchange for doing that. And to not be in that place is magical, to just feel like I get to do this and they're going to pay me.
Yes. It's so funny. Before we hit record, I was telling you, I've had this week of like my needs just being answered by the universe in this like beautiful manifesting way. And I also had the thought this morning, everyone I'm talking to today, I would talk to just to talk to, whether they're a client or a podcast or networking or whatever I'm doing. Like, I genuinely love the people I get to talk to. And back when my business was based on the hustle, if you will, right? Here's the goal, here's the money, here's the numbers, and things I need to do to achieve this outcome or get to this place in my business. I didn't feel that way about most of the conversations I had. It was, I have to, and I was anxious and I wasn't sure what was going to happen on the other side of the phone. And I think that is a reflection of some of the values work, some of the self-awareness work. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, they say about human design that it takes you like 7 years to really truly live your design. And, whether it's through human design or coaching or whatever way you come into personal development, for me, it's every day like, oh, that's a place that, oops, like it's like I missed cleaning in that corner. There's a huge dust bunny there. Got to clean that out. And when I do, oh, here's more flow.
I love that analogy because we often hear from coaches, I've tried all the things. Like, if this doesn't work, I'm just going to quit, or I just have to go get a job or something. And I believe entrepreneurship is evolution. They
Yes.
are the same thing.
Yes.
Have we talked about this before? I feel like we might have come to this
We
conversation
may have.
on the other podcast of like, our storefront gets to change all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it should, as you evolve, as you learn more about what you like, what you don't like, who you are, what you're good at, right?
Yes. And learn to like break more and more rules too, I feel like. Because I don't know about you, but when I started my business, I don't know, like I knew I wanted to coach, but the idea of owning a business and running a business was kind of so I guess I have a business now. How do I do that? And I had a bunch of limiting beliefs, which I don't even know if that's the right word about them, like a bunch of resistance to the idea of business because my very loving parents had said some stuff when I was a kid about like how business is the only thing that matters. And so in response, I'd been like anti-business. And then I'm like, oh, isn't this ironic? Now I own a business. What am I doing? So I like reached out to the people who say they tell you what to do to run a business. And I did that in my first year. In my second year, I dismantled everything that they had told me. And that's been the process for me. It's a whole lot of experimentation.
Yeah, I love it. And the thing that I've learned from you, and I have you in my mind sometimes, is leaning into the hell yeses and trusting that there are so many ways to do business, relationships, coaching, and really leaning into your yeses. And so it sounds like you've evolved your packages and who you work with and how you work with them over the years. And last year, you blazed the trail and decided to say hell no to social media.
Mm-hmm.
And is it true that for like the years leading up to it, is that where most of your clients came from? Or like, what were you using social media for before?
Social media was like a playground for me before. And yeah,
Okay,
I
that's
had
good.
groups in there.
Yeah.
I had like that's where I promoted my business all the time. That was my business. I uh, I thought that's where most of my clients were coming from. I mean, I knew them through social media, but were they actually coming through social media? That's the like now a year out from retiring from social media. I'm like, oh, just because they saw me on social media, just because they cheered me on and interacted with me on social media, doesn't mean that that's where they like came in from.
Yes.
Because there were a lot of people who reached out to me on social media and they're like, I don't comment in your group, but you inspire me so much. And like, you inspired me. Like when we traveled around the country for 16 months in a camper, I had like one person reach out and she's like, you inspired me to quit my job and move to Australia for a year. And I'd never heard anything from her. And so like I was inspiring a whole lot of people on social media,
Yeah.
but inspiration, like I was like, yay, I'm inspiring people,
Never
but like,
paid me.
yeah, how about we
Yeah.
actually do the work
Yeah.
and you pay me?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, after I've had these questions and nudges and wonderings and breaks from social media, if you will. But after I realized that you really haven't had Facebook or Instagram for a year, I started to think, well, let me actually take a look at these numbers or these people that we've worked with and the ones I've really loved working with recently And yeah, we're friends online. They're my cheerleaders or vice versa. But I had other intimate, authentic interactions with them, whether we were in the same room in a training, or we randomly met in a bar in Guatemala, or they worked with me in another program and saw me. And, you know, like it wasn't actually social media, I'm realizing, is not actually the vehicle to get clients, which I think is kind of like mind blowing if you're putting all of your energy on posting and showing up and hashtagging and adding and like doing all these things. Like we think that busy work is lead generation when maybe it's not so effective.
Ash Ambridge, she's a copywriter and entrepreneur. I don't really know how she defines herself, but she's brilliant. I love her email list. She
It's the
said
Middle
once,
Finger Project.
yes, the Middle Finger Project. And she's got a book by that name. So she said once, she was like, people who read your posts on Facebook, she was like, don't advertise your programs on Facebook. Don't try and do that because people are reading your stuff sitting on the toilet, or they're reading your stuff when they're trying to numb out from something else. They are not looking to invest in something right there. And that
Yeah.
I was just like, ah,
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I say this all the time with copywriting, like put yourself on the other side of the screen. Like, have you ever clicked on an Instagram post and said, yes, I will pay $2,000 for this? Like it takes more. And I think this is just true of the like population, society right now, is that we are online all the time. We're inundated with flashy things and ads and ideas and photos. I said at the beginning of this year, it's going to be about authentic relationships. That's going to move marketing forward. And it's always been true. It's just more shocking to us because we've gotten really busy and distracted with all these shiny objects. But at the end of the day, when we look at it, the most ancient form of marketing is relationship building.
Yes. And especially for you and me, we're both 4/6s in human design, which means that like connecting with humans is what we love to do. I mean, I think we've already touched on that because we're both like, I get to play with this person. I would do that for free. And it's amazing to make money as a result.
Right. As a result. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about this in more of like practice or day to day. Okay. So because you were showing up, you were building relationships, you were growing your audience, people were watching, whether you knew it or not. You drew the line in the sand. You said, I'm not playing here anymore. What shifts did you make kind of in that moment since your retirement or whatever you called it?
Yeah, I call it my retirement. You called it my exodus, which I love because that's totally what it was. I just like got the hell out. I recently interviewed Courtney Thomas on my podcast and she exited social media around the same time as I did, but she like planned it out. She started posting like, I'm going to get out of here in 6 weeks. So join my email list. I was just like out.
Yeah.
I disappeared. I ghosted big time. And then, oh geez, like 8 months in, I went in and just updated my bio saying, I'm not playing here anymore. Email me. And I did that on Facebook, including I updated my profile picture and people liked the picture. They commented on the photo and I'm like, oh my goodness, see, they can't even connect with this reality that no, I'm not here anymore.
Okay. So you just said done, deleted the apps, logged out.
Didn't delete the apps.
Okay.
The apps are on my phone for no good reason other than my phone hasn't squawked at me and said it needs the space. So, and this is actually a human design thing. Like some people need safety lanes, and if the apps are there, they'll push on them, whatever. Yeah, I don't need that. So I can look at something and be like, I don't want that. Yeah. And I did early on, like 2 weeks out from my retirement. I remember my finger accidentally hovered over one of them, and I actually was like, ew.
I don't want that.
Like, totally repulsed by it. I was like, I don't want to touch that.
I'm envious of that. Also at like a buffet, I wish I had that at a buffet line to be like, I don't want that because I don't have that swim lane. So here's what I've done though. And even just taking breaks, even just like building boundaries, I've learned that, and you've told me this too, like lock the phone in the other room, like give the chocolate to your husband. Like I just can't even have that temptation. So I go through like regular routines. I don't have Facebook on my phone ever. I have Messenger for clients. I have Newsfeed Eradicator, which I highly recommend for anyone looking for boundaries with Facebook, so that now when I log in, I just see an inspiring quote in my notifications. I don't see newsfeed. So I'm sorry if I missed your baby or your engagement. It's the app, it's not me. And then I'll delete Instagram, as I want to take a break. And so those are kind of some of the processes I've put in as far as boundaries or maybe moving towards this, in day-to-day practice or externally. But inside your business, what changed?
It took a while. At first, since I jumped off so like suddenly, I was like, oh, okay, so what do I do now? I've got this email list. I had this like resentful relationship with my email list because the thing about social media is when you post on there, you get the instant feedback. You get likes,
Yep.
you get the comments, and you feel like people are cheering you on.
Yep.
With email, you send out like the best email ever, crickets.
And you sit there and you just watch the open rate, and it takes like 2 days for the number to go up.
So this is actually something I don't do. Also, I don't look at the open rate and I don't look at the subscribes or unsubscribes.
Oh yeah, that's martyrism.
I learned that lesson really early.
Yeah, good.
I also don't look at numbers on my podcast. I get in trouble when I look at numbers because I did that early on with my first version of my website. I had like the Google tracker or something, and I told the person who was doing my website for me, I was like, these numbers are like horrible. And he was like, Kelsey, do you even know what those numbers mean? I was like, no. He's like, then get out of there. Okay.
Yeah.
Listen to words to live by.
Well, I think I want to kind of interject here and remind us all of this fallacy of vanity metrics. Whether it's likes or visits or opens, it really doesn't matter, because what we're getting to here in this conversation is that it is quality over quantity. Like I do track my open rates for email because I like to test headlines and I, play that game. But when I take a look at, you have to decipher too, like, okay, is this my relatives opening this email, or is this the people that are ready to work with me and are totally vibing with like what this offer is, right? So I love that advice of, worrying less about the numbers, but thinking about feedback that does matter. Is it that people are coming to you, emailing you more? Is it that you're getting really great podcast pitches? Is that you just love the clients that you have? I think we need to redefine what metrics matter for each of us in each of our businesses.
Yes, absolutely. And for me, I'll just share the decision to not look at my podcast metrics was when I started my podcast, I committed to not looking at the numbers for a year. And then a year came up and I actually kind of tried to look at them and I couldn't. It wouldn't let me in or something. And I was like, oh,
okay.
Yeah. And then I was like, you know what would I get out of looking at those numbers? No, I'm not going to do anything differently. Those are just going to make me feel like shit. So I'm not doing that.
Cool.
Okay. So back to your original question. It took a while for me to then fall in love with my email list. And then I created a YouTube channel with a friend. And then I created my own YouTube channel and I still had my podcast. So I'm like getting out in all of these ways. I hired a publicist to help pitch me to podcasts because talking to people like you totally lights me up. This is my favorite thing to do. So I was like, okay, that's where I'm going to put my energy. And then I changed I think lead magnet is such a funny term, but I changed that. It was I think it originally was meditations, and then it became human design love notes. And then but I always had the option, always in the last couple of years, I've had the option to get a free chart, a human design chart through my website. And I realized, wait a second, eh, what if I, like when people sign up to get a free chart, what if I add them to my list? Hanna, this is so perfect for me. As a 4/6 who loves connecting with humans, when somebody submits their information, I go look up their chart. I send them their chart and I pick out a gold nugget from their chart and tell them that. I send them a personal email. I get to personally connect with somebody. Whether or not they write back is like, it doesn't even matter. Of course, I absolutely love it when they do, but I get to personally connect with somebody. So it feeds my soul to do what I do to add someone to my email list. That was a game changer for me.
Yeah. Well, it probably helped with the love affair with them as well, because you had more insight. You know, they were coming for value. And that's something that's really resonated with us this year, and thinking about really wanting to build more authentic relationships and do more than just post, is finding ways that we can lead with value, even before like a lead magnet, even before an ask. And so I love how you found that really valuable thing that, yes, gets them in the conversation, gets them on your list, but also gives them something before you ask for anything.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Okay, so I did that, and then I think then I decided to launch. I had this course, this idea for a course. At first I thought it was a free challenge, keep nudging me, but helping people quit stuff. So when I first started coaching, that was my favorite thing to do. Help people quit things that weren't serving them, like quit their jobs, quit relationships, whatever it was. And so at first I thought it was a 5-day quitting challenge. And then I was like, oh no, I've got way more.
You couldn't quit after
I
5
could,
days?
no,
What?
not at all. So it became 4 weeks to quit the stuff that isn't serving you. And I just told you the word launch the word launch is funny, but I don't know what else to call it right now. So I'm going to call it a launch. So I just did a 2-week launch on that. And I showed up for the last week. I showed up every day with an email. So first time I've ever done that. So I'm built for consistency. And I'm a non-specific manifester. So here's what happened as a result of my showing up. I got the perfect number in this group. I never said what that perfect number was, but I love small groups. It's an actual coaching program. So 6 beautiful humans are in this container. More than that would have been too hard and not fun and too stressful to coach. So it's a perfect number. And then the universe sent me all of these other opportunities as well. Like so many human design readings, a bunch of people with ideas that are totally out of the box that are yes, and then a bunch of podcast opportunities and podcast pitches. It's just like, oh, by my showing up, it's just like opened abundance.
Here's what I'm hearing: space. You cleared space, like the space that I feel. And this is not like, oh, just theory. This is like Hanna going through it in real time. Like, I feel like the space social media is occupying for me is taking away from out of the box ideas. Right.
Yes.
And I think about the people that I admire or the businesses I want to be like, and they are not going live every morning and posting all day, every day, you know? And so what you're saying is resonating so much with me, because I totally agree with like getting in conversation, following the joy things, and having mental space. Like, it really, whether you think it does or not, it takes a ton of mental space to be thinking about Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Clubhouse, Yo Mama's, JoJo, whatever is going to come next. Right.
Yes.
And you won't ever, like, staying ahead in that game is just kind of silly, when again we can come back to these ancient forms of marketing that will be there and can energize us, and those out of the box ideas might not have come if you were just scrolling, right?
Yeah, because the amount of mental energy that I put into just like brewing on posts and feeling the pressure. I got to post something. I got to, oh, people commented. Now I got to respond to all the comments. And and then even back when I tried to do Instagram stories, so one of my sacred non-negotiables is walking my dog every morning. And I would bring my phone with me in case there were things I wanted to take pictures of to put in my Instagram stories. And I was like, I don't want to do this. So then I stopped doing that. But then I was like, but I need to post something in stories.
And we're sharers, right? So
yes.
We have this in our human design that we like to share. We don't just have an experience and then like stay quiet about it. We want to share. We want to teach others. We want to show what's possible.
Exactly.
It's just the limiting belief that Instagram's the only place to do that.
That you can do that through email, it turns out.
And you own that. There's real estate in having an email list, as opposed to, I mean, I've been locked out of my own Instagram for weird password things or like timeouts and things like that. So, okay, let's get back to how others might be able to follow your lead here. So you just kind of made your exodus, you turned it off, you said, nope, not going to go there anymore. And you started to think about places like podcasts, like your lead magnet, your website, your other assets that you had that you could give more energy to. Now, I want to get into kind of these details of the launch that we're not calling a launch. I also don't love that word, but don't have a better word. And it worked out perfectly, right? Can you give us a few of those things? I know you're non-specific, so it maybe wasn't super linear, but even in hindsight, some of the things that worked for you to get clients without social media.
So I love writing. Oh, this was another piece that a shift I made. Writing to my email list felt like it was disappointing if people didn't write back. But when I write a blog post, and I just happen to write it in the email provider system because I can write better there than I can on a blank piece of paper for, I don't know, because I'm weird. So when I'm sending out a blog post, well, I don't expect people to comment on a blog. Like, people don't really do that frequently unless they're reporting on a recipe. So it's just like, oh, okay, I made the shift to be like, I'm sharing blog posts. That feels really good. Like, I love, as we were just saying, I love sharing. I love writing. So this it became more of a creative outlet. So yeah, what I did is go ahead.
So I want to pause on this now too, because this is an argument I give and I hear from a lot of my peers as well, is that, it's not social media, it's our relationship with it. In that we don't have boundaries, or we're looking at it for false validation as opposed to using it as a vehicle for marketing. So what's your response to that approach?
My response is I had boundaries. I had intention. I did not ever go on before like maybe noon at the earliest, and I would even I'd write posts in the notes function of my phone and then post them up, and I'd give myself like a limited amount of time on Instagram or Facebook. I had these boundaries. So I thought, oh, I'm fine. I'm good. I don't have I don't have a problem. The amount of freedom and creativity and space and a sparkle that has come with not just not being on social media, but not being able to relate to social media. I mean, I was there, so I know what it's like. But I hear people now having conversations about social media as though it's real life. And it just sounds really funny to me. It sounds like they're talking about a cartoon. Yeah. I'm like, do you realize that you're talking about you're having this big fight with your uncle in the comments section of a Facebook post, this public place? It's would you guys be fighting in the middle of a piazza? Probably not. So why is this happening on Facebook? Why is this a thing?
Yeah. And to that point, I also have been sort of frustrated lately with the highlight reel idea, but like I am so much more than what I can show or tell or articulate, and you're going to hear it in your lens, but I meant it in this lens, and it's only 15. Like I've had a lot of that like anxiety and frustration as well. And I used to say when people were nervous about going live, when that was the new thing, I'd say, look, you're live all the time. People see you live, people hear you stutter, people hear, just be yourself. That's what it is. Now I'm feeling like it's just our attention spans are so tiny and it's so chopped up and filtered. And it's not a complete experience anymore.
Absolutely. And have you ever had anyone comment on one of your posts, congratulations, and it wasn't anything congratulatory worthy?
Not congratulations, but like, oh, you and your brother are such a cute couple and amazing stuff when I'm, being vulnerable. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're like, so I'm posting here, I'm sharing, like I spent hours working on this perfect post, like, swirling in my head before I finally got it down. I share it. I'm going to get like a vulnerability hangover from sharing it. And you so don't see it. Like, it's so obvious that you don't get it.
Yeah.
Ick.
And there's this, I think, well-intended notion that it's not for everyone, right? You're speaking to your ideal client. Yes, totally. But like everyone sees it. And I definitely relate to that vulnerability hangover. Absolutely. So I will say, just to kind of give grace or kind of permission to folks, yes, we can quit social media. We can go other ways. People will still find you if you have the other assets in place. And just know the game you're playing if it is social media, and recognizing that it isn't real life. It can be a vehicle for some of us for some eras, but I think it's really important to have that reminder. We know it, but we forget it day to day.
Yeah. And you are the only person who knows what's right for you right now. Like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I was on social media. And now it is very much not right for me.
Yeah. Do you think it ever will be?
I have no idea. When I was 12, I told my mom I'd never wear a bikini, or maybe I was 11. And then the next year I did. And so she never let me forget that. So now I won't ever say that I'll like never go back
Never
to
say
something.
never.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just a phase. I've heard that a lot too. Okay, amazing. So I guess my last question is, it sounds like you're finding other places to facilitate community, email list, and all of those types of things. But I'm curious if not being on social has changed your practice, like how you actually coach or how you facilitate in any ways. If you had a Facebook group or you had other things like inside the programs that have changed.
That's such a great question. I used to like kind of coach for free a lot just in my Facebook group. And even back when I lived in Maine and coached a women's triathlon club, because you can't, like, once you're a coach, you can't not coach. But I would then feel resentful. I'd be like, I just gave like that person like 20 minutes of quality coaching for free. And that felt icky.
And they just said, congratulations.
I know. Yeah. So, it's made me really value what relationships, that it's the one-on-one connection or the two-on-one connection. Early on, I played with Mighty Networks. It's not Facebook. The idea is you can create communities on there. So I thought I wanted to create a group on there. And it was going to be all about living the human design experiment. And we would all just like share our epiphanies. This sounded so great. Now, I don't like when people say this about manifesting generators, but I see some truth in it that, because we flow so quickly, sometimes we end up doing things that we don't really want to do. We're supposed to visualize it first. And I had visualized what I wanted this group to be like. What I hadn't visualized for a while is what it would feel like to have this group in an online fashion that would have me checking in on a regular basis, and what it would feel like to know like, oh, I'm going for a 3-hour bike ride and then I've got this and this and this. I'm not going to have a chance to check in at all today. And like the mental pressure I would feel then. So when I finally visualized the whole thing, I was like, oh no, I don't want that. I don't want like that mental pressure of that needing to respond.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One of my last questions here is for people listening who are like, yep, I'm totally with you guys. I am quality over quantity. I'm cool with one-on-ones and my intimate groups, my little coaching boutique. What about the people who are looking at impacting the masses and want to have hundreds of students or clients? Do you think that they can step away from social media? And if so, how?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all do it in our own unique ways, but there's people are going to follow you. It might take a while and it might take them time to find you, and they might not be the same people that are like following you on social media.
Yeah.
Because there's something else I did. At one point I went in, so I still have Facebook Messenger because I just don't have everyone's email addresses or phone numbers or anything.
Right.
So I keep Messenger. And at one point I went in and just sent people messages saying, by the way, I'm not playing here. So if you want to follow me, come join my email list. And this is the last time I accidentally saw the unsubscribes on my email list. And a bunch of the people that said yes, then unsubscribed like 2 weeks later. I'm like, oh, well, that's okay. They're not my people.
Yeah.
But this is fascinating. Like the people that are willing to support you when they're scrolling aren't necessarily the people that really even understand what you do.
Yes. 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 Say it again. The people who are scrolling.
The people who are scrolling and who are supporting you as they scroll aren't necessarily the people who are going to show up for you and show up for themselves and invest in the work you do and invest in changing themselves. Those people, if you think about it, like the intentionality it takes to read an email, totally different than whether this is how you interact on social media. It doesn't matter. It's seeing the people who scroll like this when they're on social media, and you can tell, like sometimes there's a like tap the love button and then they scroll. They're not reading anything. They're just scrolling, and then they're like pulling down more because it is an addiction.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily always even have anything to do with how you're using social media. But if you're using it as a platform to talk to a ton of people who aren't listening, then it's not working.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I felt that. And I think again, just like giving the permission to look at what's working and what's not working and really be honest with yourself, right? This is something we've been doing in my business, is like, where do these great clients come from? And it's like, oh my God, literally tracing them back to a bar in Guatemala. So, now the question is, how can I go to more bars in Guatemala? But actually, it's how can I build more of those real relationships and plant those seeds, and make the asks to the right people and be in the right place for the right people. So
when we're working with the right people, like the idea of the work we do as coaches, what I say, like the great sessions are the ones where you both leave that session totally lit up. That's what I'm here for.
Cool.
And those are the kind of interactions I want to have.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. So many great nuggets. I think, the big takeaway here is just, maybe checking the energy, checking the mental real estate that you are getting or receiving from social media. And then even just challenge yourself with this out of the box idea to take a look at, well, where else might your ideal clients come from? How else might you grow a community? Maybe look back in time a little bit, but we'll keep showing up here on the podcast with more ways to help you make your dream life and your real life business, your dream life and business, your real life and business. My thumbs can say it better than I can. Isn't that funny? I can hashtag dream life is real life more than I can say it today. But Kelsey, I always appreciate, your wisdom. And since it's not the gram, where can people stay connected with you and continue this conversation?
Come over to my website, KelseyAbbott.com.
And
Hanna, this is amazing.
And on your website, this is also where they can get their reading, right?
They can get a free chart there, which is an email from me. And then you can book a human design reading. We can have a conversation about light leader amplification if that's what lights you up.
So good. And I also just want to say, I love how I feel like I don't know much about human design, but even in this conversation, I'm using the frameworks you've taught me, shown me, and how I connect with you and connect with people. So manifest generating. I love it.
Yep, you're doing it. You're living it.
All right, KelseyAbbott.com, and I'll be back next week with another inspiring guest.